Question here from Charles Parrish. Coach, do mid-majors start making offers August 1st to rising 11th graders, or do you wait for the Power 4 schools and then start making offers end of year going into the new year?
Yeah, great question. We operate on our own timetable here at Kent State. I can't speak for other schools, but, if we like a guy and we've evaluated him and we've talked with the travel coach, the high school coach, and we know that he's a fit for our program, once August 1st hits, we're ready to go. We'll offer that kid and get him on a visit and hopefully lock him down. But, we operate on our own timetable. We don't worry about what other people are doing or anything of that nature.
Do you think, Zeke, that because of the roster size change, I mean, obviously at Kent State, it's, for those who don't know, I mean, it's one of the best mid-majors in the country, certainly in the Midwest. You guys play for the conference championship almost every year. You get into the tournament all the time. Do you feel like you're going to start to get maybe a little bit more talented players because there are less roster spots to go around at the Power 4?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously with the rosters going from 40 to 34, there's not enough roster spots to go around. So I would say patience is key in that aspect. Obviously we're still going to do our due diligence and go out and watch games and evaluate and build those relationships with travel coaches and high school coaches and find out what guys are fit for our program. But there are still going to be players out there that are really good players that, would normally be committed on August 1st that are uncommitted on December 1st. Just a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of really good players out there right now that are still uncommitted, and we're nowhere near close to being done with our 26th class as, we're taking it slow. But like you said, yeah, there's going to be a lot of really good players out there available where in years past, 3 years ago, those guys have been gobbled up August 1st and already committed.
Yeah, and this kind of goes to another question Kane's had. So in 2025, I'm guessing you guys will be going hard in the portal because he recognized you'd only have 3 high school commits in the 26th class right now. Mm-hmm. So is it the case that you're just going to go to the portal hard, or you're, like you said, you're taking it slow, you're still going to pick up a good number of high school guys?
Well, I think he might have been looking up on Perfect Game. I think Perfect Game shows us only having 3 commits, but
I say that all the time. Hey, don't trust the Perfect Game prep baseball stuff.
We currently have 6 guys committed / signed in the 25 class. So, we're taking it step by step. We're going to see what happens with the draft. And, we got an older squad this year, so we'll have some guys run out of eligibility. But, we're expecting those 6 guys to come in next year and be able to compete for a spot right away. One of the great things about our program we take a lot of pride in is we don't over-recruit. We're allowed to have 40 guys on our roster this year, and, a lot of people will have a bunch more guys on their roster in the fall. We have 40 guys in the fall, and we'll have 40 guys in the spring. We don't over-recruit. So, we take a lot of pride in that.
Awesome. Yeah, so Charles said, obviously, thanks for responding. Another question here from Craig Sisson. How many pitchers, and I think this is with the 34-man roster, so for next year, and this is something I've tried to figure out because you're going to have a balance, Zeke. Obviously, as you and I know, with the way the ball's traveling in college baseball, these games aren't 2-1 games anymore. I mean, it's an 8-7 game on Friday. It's a 12-10 game on Saturday. You need as many arms you can get. Do you have any idea kind of what the spread for you guys is going to be with how many pitchers you carry in the season versus how many position players? And when you travel, what's that going to look like?
That's a great question. And I think as a coaching staff, we don't even have an answer for that yet. That goes back and forth in our meetings for well, is it going to be 17-17? Is it going to be 18-16? What's it going to be? I think that puts a more of a value on two-way guys. You know what I'm saying? So you want a guy that can do both sides of the baseball, and that just brings immense value to those guys. And that goes back to the recruiting piece in 26 and being very strategic on what you add. You want to add guys that are a good fit for your program, but with the rosters going from 40 to 34, you need guys that can do both because there are so few roster spots. So to answer your question on what we're going to do, we're not sure yet. We'll cross that bridge when it gets there, but it's going to look probably something like, the more pitching you have, the better.
Yeah, and you got a year and a couple months to finalize that decision. Yeah. Zeke, it's hilarious because I've what you just said. I've been saying for the last couple months after these changes, like two-way guys. Again, they have to be legit, right? You're not just always he's not very good on the mound, but he can pitch, so we're going to take him. Yeah. You got to be legit on both sides, but you're way more valuable now if you're a legit two-way guy, or like you said, if you're on the road and you're going to bring, let's say you're going to bring 18 arms and 16 position players, or 19 arms and 15 position players. Your position players, you're going to value guys that can play all over the field now, right?
Absolutely, without a doubt. One of the things that we like here at Kent State, especially from a recruiting perspective, is we like athletes. We like guys that are very versatile and can play a bunch of different positions. So that puts more of an emphasis on recruiting position player wise, guys that just play the middle of the field. What I'm saying? Obviously, you got to have a guy that's behind the plate that can command the pitching staff and lead the pitching staff. But usually, when you get a shortstop, that guy can probably play second base. He could probably play third base. Pretty good chance he can scoop the ball over at first base. And if you get a center fielder, I mean, Kyle, you an outfielder, you know yourself, you get a center fielder.
I wish I was right-handed, man. Golly.
That guy could play corners of the outfield. So
Yeah.
that's a very big emphasis on recruiting guys that are versatile, because with the limited roster spots, man, you just don't know what's going to rise up.
Yeah. And like if you're a high school kid out there watching or a parent and, your son's a shortstop or your son's whatever position, dude, if you're an infielder, start taking fly balls in the outfield. If you're an outfielder and you're right-handed, unfortunately for me, my dad, I think, wanted a left-handed pitcher and made me left-handed. I couldn't play infield. And, if you're an outfielder, take ground balls in the infield. Like, make yourself as versatile as possible because, like Zeke's saying, you got smaller roster now. You can't afford to bring in, like, 3 first basemen anymore. Mm-hmm. You can't bring in 3 third basemen anymore. You got to bring in up-the-middle players, which has kind of always been the model, right? Yep. But sometimes you can't get them. Now it's like you got to value those guys.
Absolutely. We committed a kid in the 26th class that came to camp back in November. It was a kid that plays for the GRB Rays, a really good program out of Wisconsin. And, we've heard a lot about him, a lot of really good things. Well, he came to our camp and ran a 6.6 60, was behind the plate, throwing lasers to second base, took reps at shortstop, then took reps at center field, and was hitting balls out left and right at our ballpark. And we're like, this is a no-brainer. But it lines up to what we're looking to add when he gets here in 26, which is guys that are versatile, guys that can play all around the field, which I think he profiles as a catcher. And me being a catcher,
you would say that, you would say that.
Very upset if he gets moved to shortstop or center field with his skill set behind the plate. But he's so versatile, it allows us to have freedom to do other things.
Yeah, like if you have a catcher that maybe you think is not as good of a bat, but he's probably as good defensively, and then you have this guy who can play all over the field. All right, we'll put him in center, we'll put him at short or second or whatever. Yep. So another question from Canes: will Kent State hold some spots in 2025 for Power 4 kids that get cut next year when the roster limits are set? Power 4 kids, incoming freshmen, or veterans who get cut?
So to my point earlier, we're building rosters for 1 year at a time. So once this summer hits, after our season it gets done, hopefully it gets done in the postseason, we'll evaluate what we need, and what we need will be active in the portal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think a lot of people think, well, they, again, it's baseball, guys. Like it's more like college basketball than college football. Like mid-majors are way better in baseball than they are obviously in football. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see it every year in the NCAA tournament, mid-majors coming in and taking out big SEC or ACC programs. But you guys aren't just going to go after a kid because he's from Power 4. It's only if it's going to match a need that you guys are looking for the next year, right?
Without a doubt. Like I said earlier, we take a lot of pride not over recruiting. If we get a kid that had a pretty good season, say he hit 280 with 6 home runs, and we think he's going to be a really good player, and there's a guy in the portal that hit 320 with 10 and we can get him, probably not going to do it. We like to stick by our guys, and we're only going to add on a need basis. So we'll be active just like everybody else is in college baseball. It seems to be the norm. If you're not active in college baseball in the portal, you're probably a pretty good chance you're going to get left behind.
100%.
So we'll be active in the portal, but only on a need-to-get basis.
Okay. So another question from Charles Parrish. How do you identify potential recruits? Do you go around to tournaments, watch high school games, et cetera? What's the best thing a 10th grader can do besides working out, lifting, et cetera?
Yeah, great question. We go to all the tournaments that you go to in Atlanta, the Perfect Game tournaments, the PBR tournaments. Our coaching staff goes to all the tournaments up here in Ohio. And I would say one of the best things that a rising 10th grader can do is just play the game. You only are going to get better by playing the game and learning from your success and learning from your mistakes. And, don't get too caught up in what's going on Instagram and Twitter. And, what works for you. I would say you're probably a pretty good player if you know what works for you. Work on what works best for you, if that makes sense. You got so many guys that, they could throw 90 miles an hour and they have a pretty good breaking ball, but they're trying to, work on their induced vertical break or their horizontal break or stuff like that. Do what works best for you.
Yeah.
Man, I'm sure you agree with that, Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like baseball is such an individual sport. like if you're a lineman in football, like there's blocking technique that you have to know, right? And everybody's got to do it pretty much the same. But in baseball, the way, again, like the way, if you're a hitter, certain drills are going to work for you, but certain drills, if you do them, are going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
So don't just copy what you see a big leaguer doing. Do some research, know how your swing works. It's kind of hard to do, and you have to have someone around you that you can trust that kind of has an idea of what they're talking about.
Yep.
But 100%. So another question here from John: are they now recruiting high school players with the view of, can this kid help us freshman year?
100%. Unfortunately, the day and age of adding a kid that, is maybe a walk-on type kid that's going to develop and be ready to go by his junior, senior year is probably out the door. There's a lot of really good players out there that are really good in college baseball. And, I'll bring up this kid's name because I coached him at Georgia Tech, and you know him very well, Kyle. John Giesler. John Giesler's a kid at Georgia Tech that both of us coached that was a type of kid that went in there and was going to develop, and now he's one of the best hitters in the ACC. Unfortunately, those type of guys are no longer going to programs like that because you're building rosters for a year.
Yep.
So the day and age of adding a guy and developing him, like, all right, by the time this guy's a junior, he should be able to compete for us. That's probably just out the door, unfortunately, which is sad to say because those type of guys you pull forward and you really want to help develop. But you're building rosters on a year-to-year basis, unfortunately.
And it helps that, and you and I both know this, Zeke, because obviously, like you said, we both coached him. We both loved coaching him because he was one of, if not the hardest workers on the team, right? And he knew for probably a couple of years, I don't got a shot at making the starting lineup, and he kept working. And like you said, now he's one of the best hitters in the ACC.
Yeah, without a doubt. He just put his head down and went to work. And not only that, it goes back to the versatility point. He knew he wasn't going to crack the field at first base because we had Andrew Jenkins.
Yep.
He knew his best chance was to crack the field behind the plate. And I was the catching coach. He started working on catching and got pretty serviceable at it. He took reps at third base. He took reps at second base. He just found a way to get on the field.
And you got to really want it to volunteer to try to learn to catch, right? Like,
without a doubt,
you got to really want it.
Those guys get thumbed one time and they're done.
Yeah,
with it.
100%. So I think another question here from BA: if a high school player attends a school because he was recruited by the baseball team, he can make all of the arrangements, financial, logistics, et cetera, and then be told December 1st he didn't make the team?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's usually how it works. Yeah, unfortunately.
And with that new rule date, right, that's 100%, guys. And, I got a video that's going to be coming out maybe next week, but talking about that's why it's so important. And Zeke, you can kind of echo this. It's so important to pick a school where you really get the feeling that you're going to get a shot to play for a spot as a freshman. Because if there's no spot available and you're committing and the roster makeup doesn't make sense, like, you better ball out your freshman fall or there's a chance you're gone.
Yeah, absolutely. The fit is so important. Obviously, you and I both went to ACC schools, and everybody gets clouded with the opportunity to go play at a SEC school or an ACC school or a Power 4 school. But you got to think those schools are the schools that have the most NIL money. Those schools are recruiting strictly pretty much from the portal, and they're adding guys that have had a lot of success at the mid-major and even Power 4 level, taking guys from other guys.
Yep.
You're going to go to a spot that you're going to be able to not only, one, have an opportunity to earn a spot to play, but develop as well. So you got to find a place that fits you, and not just that, you got to find a coaching staff that fits your personality. And you don't know that until you've been coached a bunch of different ways.
Yep.
Might not gel well with my personality or someone else's personality. You got to do your research and make sure you talk to guys that have played in those programs and things like that, and find a program that really fits you on all different aspects. Not even that, you got to find a school that, you can get the education that you want, the city, you enjoy living in the city. I can't begin to tell you how many times that I've heard the story of, oh man, the school was awesome, but I just hated living there. You got to do your research at this point, especially when you're a young kid. It's the biggest decision at that point you're ever going to make in your life. And a lot of kids make it too quickly.